I could start out by talking about the controversial penalties, the impact on the Constructors' Championship with Carlos Sainz getting a puncture and Lando Norris's penalty. I could talk about the mirror that they took, 6 laps to throw a safety car for after Bottas ran it over. But no. The first topic we are going to heavily discuss on here. Sauber points, baby! Yes, that is right. It took them 23 races, but Sauber has done it. They have scored points in the grand old year of 2024. Who would have thought entering this weekend that Sauber would score more points than Texas A&M's offense? But here we are. Yes, Sauber has gone pointless, scoreless, big fat goose egg, whatever you want to call it, all the way up to Qatar. They had a promising start to the weekend. Bottas looked fast in sprint qualifying, and, maybe there was some hope there. Things played out. Things worked out. They were just on the outside of the points, and then safety cars happen, cautions happen, cars out of the race, and Zhou Guanyu's in the points for the second half of the race, and it was pretty much on speed. And once again, yes, I said there were safety cars in this race. A few cars were out of this race, and sure, they needed a little bit of help. But once they got in those points, once Zhou Guanyu got in those points, he stayed up there. He got in 8th place, which he didn't just get a point or 2 points. He got 4 whole points. That is a huge weekend for that team. It has been the struggle bus this year, and that is an understatement. So to show up here, to have some decent speed, and it wasn't exactly guaranteed to score point speed, but it was right there on the edge of points, which is just enough for things to fall your way. They fell their way. And Sauber, 4 points. What a weekend for that team. Valtteri Bottas was so close to making a double points finish, but Lando Norris ended up coming back and passing him late in this race. And speaking of Lando Norris, major Constructors' Championship implications. Heading into this weekend, McLaren had a 30-point lead on Ferrari, and this is a track that suited McLaren very well. They finished 1-2 in the sprint. They qualified, I think, 3rd and 5th maybe in the race. 3rd and 4th, sorry. But, this is a track that suited them really well. They ran really well here last year, this style of track. And it's not that it's a terrible track for Ferrari, but it's just that it better suits McLaren. And when we looked at these last 3 races, we saw Vegas and Abu Dhabi as Ferrari's chances, this as McLaren's big chance. And McLaren was doing pretty good. Verstappen was the class of the field. He never really gapped the field, but he did enough to hold on, which we'll talk more about him later. But Lando Norris, comfortably in second, even closing in on Verstappen at times, had a shot at him at one of the race restarts. But then Piastri was fighting for a podium the majority of the day, was either right outside or, right on George Russell or Charles Leclerc's tail for a podium. And ultimately, I don't want to call it a disaster because Piastri still got a podium. So they got a good haul of points from that. And Lando ended up recovering, but man, they got an unfortunate penalty. Lando Norris running second, trying to gain on Max Verstappen. And this is where we hit our first big controversy. Someone's mirror fell off. Their side mirror that they look out to see who's behind them, who's on the side of them. Someone's mirror fell off their car, and it's sitting there in the middle of the front straight, right kind of near the passing zone where people make their moves to, make a pass. And it's sitting, not an exaggeration, dead in the middle of the road. It's going to be a problem at some point. We got to do something. 1 lap goes by. 2 laps, 3 laps, 4, 5. I think it was 6 laps. You can correct me if I'm wrong. It was at least 4. I'm pretty confident. They initially throw the yellow flags because there's debris on the track. And when you throw the yellow flags in F1, that means you have to slow down. If you are a driver, you see yellow lights, you see a yellow flag, you got to slow down because there could be safety crew on the track picking up debris. There could be medical crew attending to a driver, or there could be obviously a driver walking on the track from an incident, their car dying, and they're walking around. So you got to slow down because at full speed, something goes wrong, and we don't want to talk about it. But the fact of the matter is it's a safety problem. And I'm going to make two arguments for Lando Norris's penalty. And he got a penalty. Lando Norris got a penalty, by the way, because he did not slow down for the yellow flags. He gained about 0.6 on Max Verstappen, is what they said on TV, in that first sector alone, because he didn't slow down. And yeah, it's a pretty home run penalty in terms of him getting penalized. It's the extremity, or the extremeness, don't know what the right word to use there would be, of the penalty was. And so he got a 10-second stop and go penalty. So he didn't get a 10-second penalty that could get thrown on at the end of the race. He had to come down pit road, stop in his pit box for 10 seconds, and then go. So it was basically like a 30 to 40-second penalty. Relegates him to the back of the field. He has to charge back up to get like 2 whole points. It ruined his day. It ruined McLaren's day, honestly. And as a result, it was a big hit on the Constructors' Championship. But back to the argument about the penalty. I'm going to go 2 different ways with this. Side one, which is teaming or, siding for the penalty. And here's the argument there. Every single racing series in the world does not mess around when it comes to safety, whether it's in the pit lane or on the racetrack. Yellow flags, pit road speed, making an aggressive maneuver in the pits that could potentially injure someone. When it comes to people active on the pit lane, people active on the racetrack, every racing series in the world, no BS, no middle ground. If you mess up, if you do something wrong, you're getting a penalty. It does not matter what the situation is. If you do something wrong, it's black and white in their books, because they cannot risk a potential incident happening because a driver was driving too fast on the racetrack, too fast on the pit lane, too aggressively on the pit road or the racetrack under yellow. That could result in injury or even more extreme circumstances. And from that perspective, it's a slam dunk penalty. And in some cases, you have to have an extreme penalty to send a message. You cannot be speeding on the pit lane. You cannot be speeding under double yellow flags. On the flip side, is this how we want to decide a Constructors' Championship? I know that, if we put Sauber, if that's a Sauber that does that, if that's an Alpine, yeah, there's battles in the middle of the Constructors' standings. We'll talk about that at the end of the video. But at the end of the day, if that's a penalty or if they don't apply that penalty, there might be a little initial outrage, but it won't be as loud as if you do it to the potential Constructors' Champion. And so is that really how you want to do it? And then also, you look at the individual circumstances. You had those yellow flags sitting around for 4 or 5 laps and you didn't do anything about it. There was no one on the racetrack picking up the debris. Was that too harsh of a penalty? I think there should have been a penalty regardless because he did speed under the yellow flags. But was it too extreme? Maybe just a 10-second penalty. Maybe a 15-second penalty. Was the 10-second stop and go too extreme is the question. And I'm going to side with every racing series that there has to be a penalty in any circumstance of people walking on the track, people walking on a pit lane, speeding, aggressive driving, all that stuff. I don't know how you'd enforce a penalty here. I don't know what the proper rule book says about speeding under double yellow flags in a race. So I don't know if it was too harsh, to be honest. I gave you the 2 cases, why it needed to be that extreme and why maybe it was too extreme. So I guess I'll let you decide that in the comments. But that was a major part of this Constructors' Championship battle. And then my other opinion on this is, why did they not throw a VSC for the mirror earlier? Makes no sense to me. That mirror was in the middle of the road. That's a big piece of debris. If someone runs that over, it's going to scatter the debris and it's going to cause what ultimately happened. Valtteri Bottas followed the rules. He was a lapped car. He saw the blue flag. He moved out of the way of the leaders, let them lap him, and he ran over the mirror. As a result, the mirror scatters, debris, glass, sharp things everywhere. Lewis Hamilton and Carlos Sainz are the first ones to get there. Ruined both of their days. Sainz was able to make a recovery. He was able to get in the points. But Carlos Sainz could have theoretically had a better day if he does not get that puncture. But that was another major impact on the Constructors' Championship. What if Ferrari gets those extra 4 to 6 to 8 points? What if they get those? That could be a massive swing when it comes to Abu Dhabi next week. And then Lewis Hamilton, he was having a solid day. No, they're not fighting for the Constructors' Championship, but he was fighting for points. He was having a solid day, and that obliterated their day. He ended up not finishing the race, I think. And ultimately, it ruins Hamilton's day. It messes up Sainz's day. And why are we not throwing a safety car, a VSC? Why are we not doing something for a giant piece of debris in the middle of the road? If it's a piece of paper, if it's a paper towel, if it's, a screw that you can't even see on the camera, okay, yeah. It's not really a safety car, but when you can see it on TV and it's a giant piece of, what are we doing? Why is that not a caution? Why is that not a virtual safety car? A safety car. I want more consistency. I get that different people make decisions every week and different people make decisions on when the safety car is thrown and penalties are thrown. I just want some consistency, man. I feel like this is asking too much, but I just want consistency. But on to the race results. Max Verstappen has done it again. I don't know why I'm acting so shocked here. Max Verstappen, 2 wins in the last 3 races. They had that long winless streak from June to Brazil, and now they've won 2 of the last 3. Verstappen was on pole, but he was demoted from pole to second. He got a 1-place grid penalty for driving too slow or something weird like that. Didn't matter. He was able to take the lead by turn 1. Lando Norris tried his hardest to get by George Russell and Verstappen. Failed. Verstappen led this entire race. Lando Norris had 1 charge at him late in the race on a safety car restart. Other than that, it was Max Verstappen's day. He never really gapped the field until the Lando Norris penalty. Norris was always within 3 seconds of him. He just couldn't quite get into that DRS zone, and so Verstappen was just maintaining gap. But Verstappen also couldn't afford a mistake. If he goes off track once, if he locks up, Lando Norris would have been right there. So it wasn't, the classic butt kicking we see from Verstappen in terms of just obliterating the field, running away. But he led, I think, every single lap, and that's a butt kicking in itself. But in a sense, he also had to manage. He had to be flawless today, and he had to make sure that no mistakes were made because Lando Norris was right there ready to pounce if he did. So another win for Max Verstappen. That's number 9 on the 2024 season. He already locked up the Drivers' Championship. They are eliminated from Constructors' Championship contention. Second place, Charles Leclerc. We'll talk about the Constructors' battle here in a minute when we look at the point standings, but a big day for Ferrari. They were already in a pretty decent deficit entering today. It was a track that did not suit them compared to their title rival McLaren, and they cut the gap. That's a huge deal for them. Charles Leclerc drove great, was in the top 5 all day. Safety car played right into their hands. The penalty for Lando Norris, right into their hands. George Russell had a bad pit stop, played right. Everything played right into Charles Leclerc's hands. I don't think they had a runner-up in their books today, entering the day, but it ends up happening. That is a huge day for Charles Leclerc, huge day for Ferrari. Oscar Piastri, a podium was on his sights all day long, all weekend long. We expected this, and yes, it's great. They got a good chunk of points with that, but man, oh man, it's got to be disappointing that Lando doesn't finish on the podium, doesn't finish in the top 5, doesn't even finish in the top 8. That could come back to haunt him. I'll tell you in 1 week's time if it does. But Oscar Piastri, another podium for him, a great day for him. McLaren, though, just a little bit of a disappointing day. 4th place, George Russell was on the podium and bad pit stop. They were doing a great job of holding on to that podium position. He was driving great. Had a bad start, yes, but he was holding on to that podium spot, and Mercedes spotted him a pretty rough pit stop. And then everyone got the safety car pit stop, and at that point, it was like, okay, podium's out of the question, but he still gets 4th. Solid day. Pierre Gasly, P5. Talk about a few weeks here for Alpine. They get the double podium at Brazil. They qualify 3rd at Vegas, and yes, they didn't score points, but great qualifying effort. And Pierre Gasly 5th. What a day. What a day for Gasly. Carlos Sainz 6th, couldn't get past Gasly there once again. Maybe could have squeaked out a few more points if they don't have that puncture. Ferrari and Mercedes have got to be pissed, if you ask me. But decent day. Fernando Alonso 7th was complaining about the straight line speed of the car all day long. Ends up with a whole, 6 points there? Yeah, 6 points. Really good for him. Driver of the day, baby. Zhou Guanyu, driver of the day. 8th place, 4 whole points. Sauber, who has gone pointless all season long. And they get 4 today. What a day. That is the story of the day, if you ask me. What a story. I thought that they were going to get shut out this year. I really wanted to see Sauber score. I don't ever want to see a team go pointless. I don't want to see a driver go pointless. And I was really concerned that they were going to have 2 drivers pointless. Nope. Zhou Guanyu to save the day, drove masterfully today, did a great job, picked up the pieces when others failed. Very deserved driver of the day. 4 whole points for Sauber. 4, baby. 4. Kevin Magnussen picks up a couple of points on the day. Good for Haas. Lando Norris finishes 10th, and he got the fastest lap, so he got 2 points. But once again, this has got to sting for him. I'm not going to sit here and tell you he would have caught Verstappen and won, but he would have finished 2nd if it wasn't for that penalty. Got to sting if you're Lando Norris. Bottas just falls short of points to make it a double points day for Sauber. Lewis Hamilton climbed up to 12th, and he got a speeding penalty. And then he had another penalty for something else, like a false start early in the race. They had a tire puncture. Lewis Hamilton was asking the team to retire. He was really frustrated. Climbs back to 12th. Frustrating day for him. Lewis, you only got one more with Mercedes, buddy. Then you're in red. Yuki Tsunoda, Liam Lawson, Alex Albon, Nico Hulkenberg, Perez, Stroll, Colapinto, Ocon did not finish. Colapinto and Ocon were in a first lap crash. Lance Stroll wrecked himself and Albon and then had some other problems. Perez had some mechanical problems, and then Hulkenberg wrecked as well. So quite the eventful Qatar Grand Prix. I thought this was going to be a pretty snooze fest, but shockingly exciting, I'll say. The racing still wasn't like 10 out of 10, but just, a little bit of controversy, some odd moments, some safety car restarts to kind of spice things up, but I was expecting a snooze fest. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Next week, the season finale at Abu Dhabi. I forgot to look at the constructors' points. Here we go. 1 race, Abu Dhabi, title fight, 21 points between McLaren and Ferrari for the Constructors' Championship. Red Bull officially eliminated from contention, but look here at McLaren. 21 points is a good chunk of a lead heading into Abu Dhabi, but it's not your track. This is going to be a Ferrari track. Ferrari, I think, realistically, will need a 1-2. They'll might need a struggle from a McLaren. They might need Verstappen and Mercedes to step up and really split up the McLaren duo. I don't want to say McLaren has it in the bag, but I think they can do enough, but it's going to be tight. It's going to be really close. It's going to be a thrilling race next week. I know it's not the Drivers' Championship, but we got a championship battle heading to the last race of the season. It's exciting. It's 2 historic teams that have battled before, looking to end a Constructors' title drought. It's exciting. It's fun. I'm really pumped for this one. Red Bull's going to finish 3rd. Mercedes is going to finish 4th. Aston Martin's not mathematically clinched, but let's be honest, Alpine's not getting a 1-2 next week. Alpine reclaims 6th for now, but 5 points is not exactly comfortable. Haas is kind of in this weird middle ground where they can gain on Alpine, but they can also lose to RB, but I think they're pretty safe at 7th or 6th. RB is probably going to finish 8th. Williams will finish 9th. Sauber will finish 10th. So that's the Constructors' battle right now. So thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next video. We got Abu Dhabi next week to decide who wins the Constructors' title.